everybody, welcome to one more round. Today, it's just me, it's a solo episode, which I didn't really think I'd be doing, but I kind of felt compelled this morning. We had a guest that unfortunately wasn't feeling very well, so thought I'd come in and talk about something that's kind of been on my heart lately. And really what I mean by that is what I do for a living is I have a digital agency. I have a lot of customers that I personally do a lot of one-on-one about strategy and their marketing. And with the times we are in right now, with the recession looming, with gas prices and all this kind of stuff, there's a lot of uncertainty. And I've started to feel that in these calls. I'm starting to see people get a little bit tight, not only with funds that they want to expand their business, but they're like, going into survival mode. And quite honestly, this has happened since the beginning of time. There's many, many times where things get rough and you have to make adjustments and all that kind of stuff. But so I thought I'd just talk about some stories for me and things that have helped me through times, like this. And honestly, I don't know if anybody's going to listen to this, but if you're listening, this is for you. I'm talking to you like I'm talking to a friend. I'm going to share some stories that I don't share very often. So whether it's one person or 1,000, I'm happy you're listening to this. So, first of all, yes, right now, if you're watching this, it's currently 2022. We're in October. And, if you were to watch the news for even an hour, you're going to see, politics this, you're going to see inflation, you're going to see gas prices, you're going to see recession, you're going to see all these words that, quite honestly, in my opinion, is about as fear-mongering as it gets, because it's getting people to hone in and be scared during a time rather than look for solutions. And what I want to talk today about is the solutions. So just to give you an idea and a lens of who I am and where I'm coming from, let me just give you a little background if you don't know me. So I've been married 16 years to my beautiful wife, Jessica. We have 3 kids, 12, 10 are my sons, Joshua and Zach, and then my daughter, Vivian's 5. Wonderful kids, love them to death, as I'm sure all you do with your kids. Been in business since 2008. Nobody signed my paycheck except for me in over 14 years, a long, long time. So I know what it's like to have to provide. I know what it's like when a recession hits and things seem to be doom and gloom. And I know what it's like to be down to the last couple bucks you have. And I'll start with that. I'll tell a story from 2011. So only 11 years ago, not a long time ago in the scheme of things. Things were tough. I had been in business for a couple years at that point in time, just trying to make it work and to grow it. I actually had to move in with my parents. And if you've never done that, let me just tell you, when you're 29 years old, or I guess I was 28 at the time, not exactly how you designed your life, but things were so tight, we had to do something. And during that time, I was meeting and networking and trying to get any customer I possibly could with my digital company at the time, and it was a slow go. Now, during that time, we were able to finally get enough money, get a little condo that we lived in for 3 years. And in 2011, things were so tight, I was down to my last $20. And I don't know if you can resonate or if you've ever been there, and I pray that you haven't, but I've been there. And I remember being down to my last $20. It was in my pocket, so I thought, and I reached in my pocket and I couldn't find it, which a little bit of panic comes in. I had a 1-year-old son at the time. My wife was at home with him. I was building a business. I had to provide for them, and the struggle was just on a daily basis, a real thing. So when I reach in my pocket and I don't find that $20, I freak out a little bit because I didn't know where the next $20 is going to come from. So I start looking in the couch and I look in the car. Long story short, I found it underneath the seat of my car, and there's just like this relief. And it's $20. What are you going to do with $20? And it wasn't that I wasn't trying. I was really working hard during this period of time. And I remember my stepmom, she had just called to check on me, chat. We hadn't talked in a couple weeks. And she asked how things were going. And I remember distinctly breaking down and crying. And for those of you who don't know me, that's not me. And in fact, I make a joke that I cry one time a year when I watch It's a Wonderful Life, which is pretty much how it goes. But at this time, I told her, I said, I'm working so freaking hard, and it's not growing at the rate. I'm not getting the customers at the rate I need. And it's just, I was a couple months behind on my car payment, and it was just one of those times where I kind of let it out. But I made a decision during this time that I just wasn't going to quit and I was going to go forward. I'd already read many, many books at this point in time on self-development and leadership and getting your mind right. But now it was time to apply all of this stuff. And again, to give you who I am and the lens I see things, I'm a Christian. I'm a God-fearing man. I believe every single one of you was made in His eye, and you're meant to do something special. And I believe I'm supposed to do something special. That's the lens I see things through. So take that for what it's worth. And I get along with everybody of all faith, no faith, doesn't really matter. But that's the lens I'm talking in today. So now that you kind of have an idea of who I am, and I during that period of time, here's how I got out of it. Number one, I kept going, right? I trusted that my Maker was not going to let me die on this vine, because if my belief was that God is going to provide and I'm going to be able to move forward and have a flourishing life, well, He wasn't going to let me die there on my last $20. No, it's just a time I had to get through. So number one, I believed everything is going to be okay. This season will end. Winter doesn't last forever. If you've been on this earth for any amount of years, winter is only about a 3-month period of time, and then the season changes. You got to remember that about your life when you're going through a challenging time, that it will change. The season will get better. You just have to keep going. That's the commitment you got to make. The next thing is, I wanted to, one thing that's always helped me is making sure that I have good people around me. And this is my wife. This is my dad. This is, people that I always knew had my best interest in mind. I've had great business partners. My partner, Eric, he's been a huge mentor for me. We reconnected after I worked for him 20 years ago. He went into business with me 5 years ago. Rick, who's someone that we've done business, and he's been very, very, close in my world. And I started to basically put together people around me that had the same mindset, the same juice, that when I was having a bad day, I didn't necessarily need to call them and tell them about my bad day, but when I talked to them and we're sharing ideas, their juice brings me to the next level. You gotta have people like that in your life. If you don't, start looking for them. I'm telling you, they'll start to appear. The one thing that's so cool, and I remember hearing Ed Milet talk about the reticular activating system in your brain. If you start to look for something, your brain will come up with it. It'll start seeing that without you even realizing that you're seeing more of it. So for example, today, as you're driving, if you're listening to this, I want you to think of blue Toyota cars. Now, the last time you probably remember seeing a blue Toyota car was maybe, weeks ago. Maybe you don't remember it at all. But now that you're focused on blue Toyota cars, I promise you, what you're going to see over the next couple days is multiple blue Toyota cars that just appear to come out of nowhere. Well, it's like that when you're looking for the great people in your life. What does a good friend look like to you? What does a good business partner, mentor, employee, what does that look like for you? So start defining that in your mind. A good friend is someone that's understanding. A good friend is someone that sets proper boundaries. A good friend is someone that is funny. You can have a good time whether you're sitting there just chatting or you're having dinner or you're traveling with. That's something you can define in your mind. But once you start to define that and you're looking for that type of person, they'll just start to appear in your life. People are the most important thing when it comes to getting through tough times, because you guys can encourage each other, you can give ideas, and there's just always that mind share that happens when 2 or more people get together that will help you get through the tough times. So next thing, for me, I stopped watching a bunch of television, listening to the radio. I'm not saying that I buried my head in the sand and I don't listen to any of it. I do, but very selectively, because the more and more you focus on a problem and you listen to a problem, the bigger the problem becomes. So if you're worried about gas prices and you're thinking, oh, it's $5 a gallon and all, yeah, that sucks. Especially I got a truck, cost me, I think $180 to fill up my tank the other day. Yeah, that's not fun. But at the end of the day, I can't do anything about it. So I can complain about it, or I can just go and earn more money so I can make sure that I have the gas that I need to get around. Right? That's a mentality thing. It's you can't change certain things, so don't try. Make sure that you change and adjust yourself so that you can still get the outcome that you want. All right? So when it comes to news media, I don't care if it's Fox or CNN or any of this stuff, They want your attention. That is the whole purpose of a media company, is to get your attention, because now that they have your attention, guess what they do? They sell advertising. That's how they make money. You are the market for advertisers. That's what they do. So if they're keeping you thinking about the recession coming up and worried about gas prices, or, will I make it in my business, all this kind of stuff, and that's all you start to hear, well, guess what? Your mind starts to form that picture and it starts to gravitate towards the negative, right? So cut out some of that stuff. I'm not saying bury your head in the sand, but I will say for me, in different parts of my life, that helped a ton. The next thing, think about what you're thinking about. If you're going through a tough time, maybe your business is a hardship, maybe you have a relationship that's, kind of going south and you'd like to fix it. Think about the thoughts that come into your mind, and are they serving you? If you're just repeating the same message over and over, and it's this pattern that is a merry-go-round, and it's the same message that's negative about that person, an argument you just had, maybe a check that didn't come in, or maybe a customer that left for no reason other than they just wanted to go explore greener grass and it wasn't anything to do with you. That stuff happens. But when it comes into your mind, what you think of is a positive thought. I'm provided for. I know for a fact that other customers are going to come in and they're going to enjoy and appreciate what we do for them, and they're going to refer people. This relationship that I had that argument, hey, maybe I was wrong. Maybe they were wrong. It doesn't matter. If I want to repair it, I love that person. I appreciate that person. Start thinking positive thoughts towards that person. It'll start to repair it. And in your mind, it'll change you towards more of a positive track, right? So that's huge. The next thing, if you're having a bad day, something happens out of the ordinary, or circumstances seem to be looming in and it feels like the walls are starting to close in on you, sometimes you just got to stop and breathe. Breathing techniques, you can Google 100 of them. You can do the Wim Hof. There's all kinds of different ones. But sometimes for me, I just take 10 seconds, I breathe, and I realize that this too shall pass. This season will be over. This issue that I'm dealing with today will be resolved. It might not be comfortable. It might not be great, but I'm going to get past it, because I'm not going to stop here. So I'm not going to just dwell on something that's going wrong. So, with that, I just wanted to take a minute and say that this next season of your life, you can either make great, or you can buy into what you're being sold, which is the doom and gloom that our economy is going to tank, the housing market, might go down. There's all kinds of things to worry about. Or you can start going on offense. And I recommend you go on offense. And here's what I mean by that. I want you to think about your goals, what you want to accomplish with your business, with your relationships. What do you want to have momentum coming out of the recession? And you can call it a recession, which I believe, it is, and we're going to be there for a little while. It doesn't mean your business needs to hurt. It means that you have to get creative. And when you have goals of, here's my revenue goal, here's how many customers I want, here's the customer experience I want them to have, and that is how you're positioning things. Now you're looking at things through a lens of, how do I win out of this? And I'm going to have my partner actually come on. We're going to do a podcast. I'm going to have him tell you a story, and I won't ruin it, but how basically during a recession, he was able to grow his fitness company by 2.5 times, and went from losing a lot of revenue when the recession came to then thriving and eventually being the biggest fitness company in this Phoenix metro area at the time. And that comes with mindset. And I do remember the one thing I'll share with you, he had come in, I wasn't at this meeting, but he shared the story. He went into the meeting and he said, we're not participating in the recession. And he got his managers and he got this mindset through, and they said, okay, we're not participating in the recession. And he had an action plan. Here's our goals. Here's what we're going to be going after. And when they're all laser lock focused on their goals together, and they said, we're not going to let these circumstances dictate what our outcome is, they thrived and succeeded. So do that for yourself. Write down some goals saying, I'm not going to participate in what everybody else is worried about. The sky's not falling. The sky will be in the air. Before the recession, after the recession, if there's a depression, doesn't matter. The sky's still going to be there and it's not going to fall. So by saying these are the things I'm going to focus on, these are the things that I can control, that is how you can not only get through this time, but thrive through this time. And people are going to watch you. People are going to want to see what you do. And the masses that are out there listening to the negative, the doom and the gloom, you know what? They're probably going to end up being right. They're probably going to be right about themselves. They don't need to be right about you. You can succeed and flourish, and I know you will. So with that, I just wanted to, take this time since we had a cancellation today, throw this out there. I appreciate you listening. And if you found any value out of this, please share it. Share it with a friend that you think would enjoy the message, not necessarily the messenger, but the message itself. So I appreciate it, and we will see you next time.